Welcome to the Therapist Thrival Guide. My name is Miranda. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and we are back with Letitia and Gina. And today we are talking about social anxiety. And this is just going to be a short little episode because Letitia has to go pick up her kids. And so I also need to go home. But we were all in the studio together and we're like, hey, let's talk about this. The cool thing about this topic is that Gina mostly works with kids and Letitia mostly works with adults, but you both work with clients that have social anxiety. So let's talk a little bit about what is social anxiety, and then we'll switch gears to like, how do both of you treat social anxiety?
Great idea. Do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to read what DSM says social anxiety is?
Yeah, give us the overview.
It's a little bit of a long one, so
give us the Cliff Notes.
Okay. Marked fear or anxiety about one or more social situations in which the individual is exposed to possible scrutiny by others. In children, the anxiety must occur in peer settings and not just during interactions with adults. The individual fears that he or she will act in a way or show anxiety symptoms that will be negatively evaluated. So it says will be humiliating or embarrassing or will lead to rejection or offending others. The social situations must almost always provoke fear or anxiety. Oh, and in kids, the fear or anxiety may be expressed by crying, tantrums, freezing, clinging, shrinking, or failing to speak in social situations.
Most of the time when I have diagnosed with social anxiety, with kids, it has been because I'm giving them, like their parents will say, oh, she's really anxious, or oh, he's super anxious. And then we give them the scared assessment. And what I like about the scared assessment for kids is that it's just, I mean, it's like 41 questions and it's all about anxiety, but all of the different questions are really about different types of anxiety. Yeah. And so then when you actually go through and score it, you can see, oh, this kid has generalized anxiety disorder. Oh, most of their anxiety is about school. Oh, most of their anxiety is about separation. Most of it, and social time. And so what I have appreciated about that assessment is being able to actually like go through and differentiate, like what are times you're feeling some anxiety. And so.
Well, and anxiety is so much about fear, and that assessment and what's really helpful for us is to understand what the fear is about. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, I mean, I'm so glad you're using that. And, we have like at Ellie, especially Ellie, Minnesota, all of our practitioners use it. So
yeah, it's a very useful tool.
Yeah.
What about for you? When are you, like if you're diagnosing or working with someone with social anxiety, how is it usually coming up? Is it usually they're like, scoring super high on the GAD-7, and then when you start to kind of break it down a little bit more, or maybe there's that question on the GAD-7 that's like, you are feeling worried for no apparent reason, and maybe they score really low on that one because they know what the reason is, and like all of the other ones they're scoring. So I'm just curious.
Definitely on the GAD-7 they score pretty high, but I also observe them in like their conversations with me. If there's a lot of conversation about I get nervous doing this, or I get nervous when I'm around a large group of people, or with my family members, certain family members, I get nervous when I'm around them, or I don't really socialize with them as much, then that for me speaks to their social anxiety because they're not actively engaging themselves in certain activities or in certain, even around family, they're not wanting to actively engage with their family. So that speaks a lot to how much anxiety or fear they are having concerning those interactions with other people.
So then how do you treat social anxiety?
What do you think? It's CBT.
Okay.
That's like the gold standard, I think.
When you said, what do you think? I was like, throw them into a party.
No, that's like the last thing you should do is throw. So the two biggest ones are CBT and ACT. So acceptance and commitment therapy is definitely more towards the adult side, and CBT could be for either kiddos or adults. But that's kind of the gold standard first step for social anxiety, is really identifying the negative beliefs that can sometimes be persistent, intrusive negative beliefs that make you think other people are thinking negatively about you when in fact they don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, but ACT is a little bit confusing to me. I'm like, when I think of ACT, I think of mindfulness. I think of values. I think of, like more like finding acceptance. And so how would you use ACT for social anxiety?
Well, it says it helps people become aware of their thoughts and emotions, helps people learn to stay present and focus on what's important to them.
Oh, sure.
And helps people learn to accept their thoughts and emotions instead of avoiding them.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. It speaks to letting them understand and accept and be validated in that emotion and feeling so that they can experience it in a positive light. Because if all I'm focusing on is the negative things that are happening to me, accepting that those are negative things and those are my negative thoughts can help me to rearrange and redefine the negative thoughts, right? Not replacing them with necessarily positive ones, but redefining why those negative ones are there. And so then that can help me to accept it, and then I can proceed to change that behavior. But if I can't accept it, then I can't change it. So if I'm going to be anxious in environments, understanding why I'm anxious, accepting that, and then being able to change that.
I think that when I think of CBT, I'm not like you know how some people are just like CBT all the way, like pure blood CBT type people.
It's like their whole therapeutic identity.
Yes. And I feel like I need to meet some of those people because I would love to be, like brought into
their brain.
Like understand why. But the thing that I'm thinking of with CBT is it's like so much of it is questioning your thoughts too and being like, are these realistic? Like, do we think that people are actually thinking these things?
Do we have proof of this happening?
Yes, do we have proof? Yeah.
Yep. That's a big one.
Yep.
No, that makes sense. Okay, what about for kids?
It's CBT, but it's just at a developmentally appropriate level, right? And it's that triangle, right, of like, it's, what is it? Feelings, thoughts, actions. I mean, that triangle is teachable from 5 to like 99, So I think it just has to be developed for the age that the kiddo is at. And I think anybody can really understand the worry of what other people are thinking about them, right? As soon as kids get old enough to understand that others are thinking about them, that worry can develop, as young as 5, right? Even sometimes even younger than that too. So with kiddos, it's a lot of being able to name the feeling of worry and identify it as worry, and then trying to figure out what negative beliefs they have attached to the worry. So
Sure. Okay, how would you use a social story with this?
We love a social story. I know you like a social story too.
I know you like a social story. So
I know you've been doing them for a long time too. I think social stories can be really helpful to normalize.
What is a social story though?
I didn't know I was going to get quizzed on social.
Sorry,
So it's, I think, most commonly used for kiddos in particular, or teenagers on the autism spectrum disorder, because they sometimes miss the social rules and social cues that are happening in each specific situation, right? Like going to the dentist, going to the airport, different things like that, going to the lunchroom with friends or whatever. So to me, a social story is identifying the things that are going to happen in the situation, labeling feelings that might be arising during the situation, and ways to cope with the feelings in the situation. So it's basically a story for the kiddo to read that validates and normalizes the feelings that might occur for the kiddo. So
no,
what I do, was that okay?
No, great. I knew you'd have I knew you'd have a better way of like describing it than I would, because you use them so much. But
I do, we use them a lot.
What I appreciate about social stories is, like, I mean, I used them when I was a child protection worker as a way to help kids make sense of what was happening, like why they were moving away from mom and dad's house, or like what the safety plan was moving forward, that sort of thing. But I continue to use them with kids nowadays where, I was working with a kid with separation anxiety, and we did a social story about school and what school was going to be like. He was a kid who, like he did kindergarten during COVID. And so he was going to go to first grade, and he had no idea what to expect because all of his kindergarten years were virtual.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he didn't go to preschool. So it was like he was going to go to first grade, and he was so anxious about being separated from mom and dad, and so so many, even somatic feelings happening with his anxiety. And so we did a social story about what school was going to be like that at, and how he might feel the first time he sees his teacher. And, we included that he was I had talked to mom ahead of time, and I knew that they were going to do like a meet the teacher day. And, we put together this social story so that he could kind of get some mastery over some of these feelings and help himself like just get ready for some of this. And then also included in the story how he was going to cope with some of the scary feelings. So we it wasn't a story that was like, he was so excited to go to school and he loved all of his friends. And it was so great. It was like, his mom dropped him off and he realized that she was gone. And so he felt worried and felt really sad. And so what he did next was, he went and talked to the teacher. I don't remember what it was, but it was like we involved some coping skills and things. And that same kid, we did a social story about bedtime because he was having a lot of separation anxiety around not sleeping in mom and dad's bed anymore and wanting to, and having trouble falling asleep because of some anxiety. And so you can use these in a lot of ways.
I think a social story takes an unknown situation and makes it known, right? And
I
says,
like that, yeah.
Yeah, here are the feelings you might encounter, and here are the ways that you can deal with them. Absolutely, yeah. And I think also, too, we use it for adults, but we call it like a rehearsal, right? When we talk through a situation
role
of
playing.
like, you're about to go on a trip and see your sister for the first time in 10 years. What are your worries about that? Like, instead of writing it down, we're just verbalizing it out loud.
Yeah. And I do that a lot with metaphor. When I talk with my clients, I do a lot of metaphor speaking or examples. Like, if maybe they're concerned about, like Gina was saying, concerned about a family social event or a situation, what are the initial feelings that you're feeling? How do those translate? How would you express those? How do you navigate through that? And then if things go awry, what is your feelings about that? How do you navigate
What's your
through
escape
that?
plan?
Right, exactly. Like what are you looking to do and
Mhm.
how will you handle that or how will you cope with that? Because a lot of anxiety comes from the unknown, right? Like I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how people are going to perceive me. I don't know how this is going to happen or what's going to happen next or how this is going to happen next. And all those thoughts are very intrusive and very overwhelming. And being able to navigate through some of those and talk out some of those thoughts and feelings helps to alleviate some of that anxiety and take the pressure off. You don't know what's going to happen, right? You just don't know whether you have a plan or not, right? You just don't know what's going to happen. But being able to talk out some of those things that could happen, some of those responses that you would have, help to kind of navigate through and process through some of those anxious feelings.
Yeah. I had an adult that she wasn't diagnosed with social anxiety, but she was feeling a lot of social anxiety about like certain family get-togethers. This is what made me think of it. But she just had general anxiety. But we talked a lot about like having a buffer person, or like what are some ways that we can make sure that, like set boundaries around how much time you're going to be there, or like when I talk about buffer people, it can be a partner, it can be an auntie, or it can be a friend or something, like people who are safe people that you're like, I'm there with this person.
Yeah.
And so that can be really helpful. But I am curious, like, have you ever heard of like exposure therapy or virtual reality therapy being used for this?
Sure. Depending on the severity level of the anxiety, what the fear is. I mean, I know Ellie does quite a bit of that. In EMDR, we do quite a bit of it. I somehow seem to be the person that all the kids that are afraid of throwing up go to. So
I have a client for you.
Please don't. I'm full. We do so much. Like, we do a lot of EMDR around sitting with the uncomfortable feelings and building up a window of tolerance for the uncomfortable body sensations and experiences and thoughts that we have that come up when other people around us are sick. And so, Letitia's right. It's a lot of like talking and narrating and planning and trying to cope with what could possibly come up for kiddos and adults. So
That makes so much sense how like EMDR or something like that
Yeah.
could be used for this.
Well, it's in a controlled environment too.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen. It's going to be for a short period of time. And you're just trying to build that tolerance over time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of therapy office setting or if we're doing therapy in the schools is a great way to do that. So
yeah.
Well, awesome. Any other thoughts about social anxiety?
We could do a whole podcast on social stories if you want. So
I actually like not a bad idea. But
just
also,
the uses, like they're so
use it
functional.
for everything. No,
Yeah.
that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I love them. Any other thoughts?
The sooner you can get help for anxiety, the better.
Yeah.
Say more.
So many of our clients have it, and it's so common. And in this culture and time and age, there's more anxious people than ever before.
Yeah.
And so getting help and talking about it will make your life better. So.
Yeah. And that it's normal. It's a normal, anxiety is normal for us. Just overwhelming anxiety is something that you can be treated for and it can improve.
And it can improve your like quality of life significantly.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, awesome. Thanks for doing this little mini episode with me.
Anytime.
Yeah. And thank you so much for listening. If you are not a subscriber yet, please hit subscribe so that you get notified when we have new episodes dropping. And please be sure to rate and review our podcast as well, because it definitely gets into the hands of more people so that more people can listen and I get to continue doing this fun job. So thank you for listening. See ya.